Hello and welcome to the Mainly Eminem podcast in association with ePro. I'm joined by my co-host Blake and Ross, and today's show we have another guest. He's been touring up and down the country and has a host of big shows coming up in the summer. He is the biggest Eminem tribute act in the UK. Welcome to the show, Michael Mathers. How are you, mate?
Good, thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. So first things first, whereabouts are you from?
I am from London originally. I currently reside in Kent, but born and bred in London.
Not too far away from Ross. Ross, how many? That's still a good bit away, to be fair. You're obviously South Coast.
Not too far. I mean, I think Chichester's like a good hour and a half, maybe 2 hour train, depending on. But yeah, it's not too far. I'd say in America, that's nothing. So put it
Yeah.
So, Michael, it's just really to find out. You know, we've seen you on Instagram quite a lot. You've been doing a lot of shows for probably a good while as well. So it's just really, first of all, how did you become a fan of Eminem's music? What age were you? How did you manage to get into his music?
Gosh, now you're testing my memory. So I was in school when I became a fan of hip hop. So I was in year 7 in school. I can't for the life think of me what age that is, maybe 12 years old.
Yeah.
And it was actually a friend of mine introduced me to hip hop, gave me Dr. Dre's 2001 album. And I basically fell in love with hip hop from there. Tupac's album, Biggie's album, started listening to all of them. To be honest, I was a little bit of a non-believer at first. When it first come along, but as soon as I heard the Dre album, it totally it changed my mind. And then you surround yourself with friends that are all listening to the same sort of music, and it just sort of got from there. It went on to Eminem. So when around the time the Marshall Mathers LP, that's what really captivated me, and I've basically been hooked ever since. Like, he's got a very loyal fan base. I'm sure you guys might have a similar story yourselves.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm probably similar sort of age-wise as well. Like the Marshall Mathers LP that came out when I was around about 9 or 10, and I got it for Christmas, and that was the album as well that got me into his music, and obviously ever since, So what other music did you listen to growing up? Sort of early 2000s, I'd imagine. 50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying. That would have been around about there.
50 Cent for sure. Like I said, Tupac, Biggie. I liked a lot of Exhibit. Big fan of Method Man.
Oh yes, he's good.
Yeah, so I'm kind of old school, like all those sort of guys is pretty much still who I listen to now. Jay-Z, of course, Nas, but yeah, all that time was like a golden era.
Oh yeah, that late 90s, early to mid 2000s, that probably was, in my opinion anyway, some sort of peak in hip hop music as well. How did it all come about that you became an Eminem tribute band? Like, when did it begin? How it was a bit of a process trying to get that all sort of set up?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it for 2 years. Well, 3 years actually now. We're 2024, aren't we? Well, so I've been doing it for 3 years. But before that, I was a DJ. So, and then before that, I actually started rapping. So about 20 years ago, I started rapping in school and stuff like that, and produced like my own little albums, and went around the school, and I was doing okay. And then when I left sort of school and kind of become an adult, I got into DJing. And I was probably DJing for around about 10 to 15 years maybe. And then COVID hit and wiped out all of my DJ work.
Yeah. Would that have been nightclubs, I take it, or was it other areas?
I used to do bars, nightclubs, private parties, you name it, I would sort of do it. It was a nice little bit of extra money to bring in. But obviously the love of the music was why I did it. And I've always loved performing. My sister is a singer, professional singer. She works every week at gigs and things. So it's kind of a little bit in the family as well. And after the COVID stuff happened and I lost the work, and then I actually moved house as well, moved away from London to where I am now. And I just lost a little bit of the passion for the DJ side, and I really still had this massive itch, that I wanted to perform, wanted to get back into rap basically. And to be honest, I can't pinpoint exactly what made me think, let's do that. I must have seen some tribute acts or something somewhere, and I thought to myself, there's not any Eminem. No one's really doing it. Had a little look. There was a couple still, but no one really taking it by the horns. So yeah, I guess the rest is sort of history. 3 years ago, started just sort of doing small birthday bookings in people's gardens and stuff like that. And now here we are today.
To be fair, we were talking about this literally just before you joined this session, and we were saying because it's such a niche market, so in terms of an Eminem tribute act, you see loads of old school Eminems 90s, early 2000s, but there's it's very rare you see anyone do 2020 version of Eminem, late 2010s. So it's did you find that it became easier to get the bookings because no one realistically was doing what you were doing at the time, or what was it still quite a hard venture to do?
Good question. It was tough at the start, I'll be honest with you. To get the ball rolling, it was tough. People wanted, whenever you inquire about working somewhere, because you have to do a lot of chasing people, people want to see videos and pictures and things like that. And obviously I've only got, at that time I only had videos of me in people's gardens, so it just looked a bit, excuse the French, shit.
Yeah.
So this is an Eminem podcast, I'm sure we can swear, right?
Yeah, you'll be fine, mate. Yeah, you're absolutely fine.
Fucking hell, you can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess in a way it has helped. I mean, definitely the way he looks and dresses now has helped me, because it just meant if I just grew my beard out a bit, put on a cap, I could kind of get, obviously not a spitting image, but I can kind of get that sort of vibe a little bit, and that added to the act a little bit more as well. So yeah, not just the music, also the way he styles himself now as well has helped me.
Well, to be fair, mate, I've got to commend it to you, because I've seen a couple of your videos now, and the way you actually get the movement, the way he performs on stage now is actually so precise. So I've got to hand it to you. The way you are taking it by the horns is actually incredible. Appreciate
that. Thank you very much. Yeah.
What's the set list like? How do you compose a set list? Do you know the majority of just about all his songs anyway? So is it straightforward enough?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to put in all the big songs. And then you kind of go gig by gig. So performing at a festival, I would adjust the set list, whereas performing in a bar. So I guess a perfect example is the bar that I did on Friday, just gone. So that was like a ticketed event. People actually brought tickets and they wanted to hear Eminem music, obviously. So I knew I had a bit more of a free reign over the set list. I could play some songs that maybe, the casual Eminem fan might not necessarily know, if you know what I mean. And it's always different. Like usually my set list is an hour, which I think is almost the perfect balance. But some places want, in the tribute world especially, some places want 2 sets of 45 minutes. And to get that much Eminem into an hour and a half, that is a challenge as well. But yeah, it all just kind of falls in, and I rehearse and I go through the set list before I do any gig, and I'm always playing with it. Probably 5 minutes even before I begin, I end up changing something. But yeah, I'd say the short answer is, as long as I've got those big A records in there, then it's usually all good.
Is there any song that you've performed that Eminem might have not done live himself?
Oh, wow. Do you know what? It's another good question, because probably not at this moment in time. A lot of the time I watch his videos on, his concert videos. So, for example, I did a festival last year, and they wanted a solid hour of no overrun at all. And I'm looking at where I can sort of take out some verses and things like that. And every time I perform stand, I've always put it the whole way through. I've watched some of his concerts, and I notice, okay, he's not doing the last verse. And so things like that kind of happen where I modify the songs. But to answer your question, anything he's not done live, I mean, I'm just having a look now. I've just pulled my set list up. Not really. There is songs that I can do. Yeah. But again, it goes back to the previous point of some people might not sort of know them. So the gospel song that he released for the Grand Theft Auto game, with Dr. Dre, I absolutely love that. And when that came out, I just learned it, but I've never performed it because that would probably be the closest.
Yeah, because Music to Be Murdered By obviously dropped 2020, and he himself has never actually toured that album. So I would did you perform Godzilla or any track like that?
I'm still learning Godzilla.
A tricky one, I bet.
That's the most challenging one, and I've had a few people ask for it. But I don't want to perform it unless I can absolutely nail it. Like Rap God took enough time to master.
I've seen the videos, mate. It's impressive. Fair play.
Cheers. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Godzilla is definitely one on the list at some point. But yeah, I haven't. That is a very popular song at the moment.
In terms of shows this year, you seem to have quite a bit on, judging by your Instagram. What stuff and whereabouts in the UK are you going?
So I'm north and south really. So you can see on my Instagram I'm in a couple of weeks I'm in Hayes. This past Friday I was in Warrington, where they've actually rebooked me. I'll be back there in May again. And then I've got quite a few festivals coming up. So I've got one in Maidstone, Wincanton, if I said it right, Bridgewater. I'm just trying to think. Let me just grab. Oh yeah, Huddersfield. So up and down the country, really, here, there, and everywhere. And there's still a few in the pipeline as well.
Yeah. Any potential Glasgow shows?
Yeah, there is potentially Glasgow shows. I was contacted last week about potentially doing Glasgow and Edinburgh across the same weekend. So yeah, it was just an inquiry for now. I'll see what happens. But
watch the space. If so, we'll get the boys up for the weekend as well.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll go and see you.
Absolutely. I'll make sure to get you guys some tickets for sure.
Guys, we got any other questions for Michael?
Well, yeah, I was actually going to say, we obviously, like you said, the Eminem fan base is quite a loyal fan base. If you actually spend any time on Twitter, you'll see that most people have to spend fucking hours arguing with Muppets in the States that are like, oh, no one plays Eminem in the clubs, no one's listening to Eminem in their car. But I mean, like you said, you started as a DJ. So when you were DJing, were you playing his music at all? Were you remixing any of his music as well, or?
Yeah, definitely.
See, and it's interesting because off of that, did that help getting into the tribute stuff, knowing that you'd already somewhat performed an element of his music anyway? You know what the crowd likes to hear. How did that sort of work into your set list now? Is there anything you go back to and go, I've been spinning this for the last 10 years anyway? Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, I have to disagree with those people on Twitter that think, that it doesn't go down well, because when I was DJing and I would drop the Without Me's and the Lose Yourselves, people would go crazy, and he's got such an iconic voice that everybody knows. As soon as that song comes on, it doesn't matter almost what age you are, that it's Eminem.
Yeah.
And people love it. I think, Twitter's a lot of social media is a little toxic sometimes.
Obviously, Danny said there's some songs that not even Eminem's performed yet, and I'm 26 now, so when I was in secondary school, the album that was sort of hot going around my school was Recovery. and a lot of people would probably agree that at my age, that there is probably a lot more replay value that stands to this day in his later albums than maybe his earlier albums. Like you said, everyone wants to hear like Without Me, My Name Is, maybe some of the D12 stuff as well. But I mean, if you were to rank his albums, I mean, what would you say is your favorite, and what would you say is probably the least?
Okay, yeah. So I would put the Marshall Mathers LP number 1, simply probably because that was really the first album I really got into, but I still listen to it now. I would put the Eminem Show at number 2, and then to me it's just so hard. There's not an album that I don't like, you know. And I know people. I remember when Encore came out, and people used to sort of slag it off a bit, but that's got some brilliant songs on it as well. I honestly couldn't tell you an album that I would put at the bottom, and that's not just, you know, because of what I do and being like a fan and stuff like that. There isn't an album that I wouldn't listen to, if I'm being honest with you.
Interesting, because I mean, I think being in the UK, a lot of people that I might show, I've got vinyls, for example, that are set up in my room upstairs, and a lot of people look at the Relapse cover and go, "Oh, I don't really remember that album." And it's you might know the one tune that was "We Made You," because I think that got marketed for its music video quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any music that you do avoid playing because it's maybe a bit too controversial and you don't want to offend or?
No, no. I mean, I give fair warning when people book me, and I give fair warning when I start the set. The kids, you'll be surprised the amount of kids that love it. And when I say kids, I'm talking like 11, 12, kind of, that go to the festivals with their parents, and they know a hell of a lot of Eminem. That's probably one of the biggest things that surprised me. I worked in a bar last year, and it was, I think the kid, he was 12 years old, and he honestly knew pretty much every word to every song that I was doing, and it was kind of mind-blowing. So there was not really anything that I kind of avoid. I guess maybe the only song that I probably wouldn't do is Back.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the only one. And he puts a hell of an accent on that as well, so it's pretty difficult to do anyway.
Even Kim would be a difficult one to do live.
Yes,
I would never. I don't think he himself has even performed it live. He might have once during the Up in Smoke tour, but that's that. We've had a few conversations about his music and his albums, and we were all on the sort of same page when it came to one of our favourite songs, and all three of us at one point has mentioned "Say Goodbye Hollywood" from the Eminem Show.
Oh, yeah.
What do you make of that track? Is that a sort of top song for you?
Brilliant track. It's not one that I perform because I feel like it's, again, one of those slightly more obscure songs of his that I guess people, like I mentioned earlier, that more of the common sort of audience wouldn't really know.
Agreed.
Yeah, but absolutely brilliant track that is, for sure. And there's some other. I mean, I love "We As Americans." I think that's a absolutely brilliant song.
Encore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I speak about Encore, and it had. I mean, I don't even. Was that on the main album, or was that released afterwards?
Deluxe. I can't remember if that was the deluxe or not.
Yeah, it might have been.
It was.
Might have been because it leaked.
That was it.
Early.
It was one of the tracks that leaked before the album released, and then that's obviously why there's quite a sound difference. Like, it's quite funny to me that you've got songs like Big Weenie and then Spend Some Time. Like, Spend Some Time for me on that album is one of my favorites. Really good, like, feature list. Obviously it's Eminem singing again, which some people moan about, but I think if you can look past the fact that rappers are rappers, they're not meant to be singers. You know, they're going to have to do their own hooks at some point. But yeah, I think going back to sort of like you said, Encore, I remember my brother buying it when I was younger, and I got given like an iPod Shuffle, the one that had like no screen. So if I had his music on there, I was having to sort of go through it and just like find what would sound like Eminem. And I, for a while, didn't know that Mockingbird was actually Eminem, just because of how different his sort of delivery is. I was like shocked when I had the album. I found my brother's album and looked at him and was like, oh crap, that's actually an Eminem song. And that's when I sort of started to dive into it a bit more. But it's like Blake was saying earlier, there really isn't any people I know that are doing, I guess, a tribute act for Eminem. But do you know any other people that are doing tribute acts? Do you ever see the same people booked at similar shows that you go to, or like festivals or anything?
What, Eminem tributes or
No, just any other tributes really, either like other rappers or if singers, for example. Do you ever see people that you kind of know because they tend to get booked for similar gigs? Or
Yeah, there is a few familiar faces. I'll be working with quite a few of them this year on quite a few of the different festivals as well. We're booked on the same festivals. The list is kind of endless. Like you have like your Queen tributes, so there's a hell of a lot of those. But then you can go all the way down to sort of your Robbie Williams. There's only a few, and there's an Avril Lavigne tribute that I follow on Instagram that I'll be on a festival with this year. I
Nice.
believe she's the only one, but she's brilliant.
Well, it was sort of similar to ours when we were trying to do this podcast. Like there wasn't many. I don't think there was one Eminem podcast that they'd done maybe 2 or 3 episodes. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, but they never continued after episode 2. So it was the same for us. Once we done like the pre-show for the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and we knew there was an audience. I think we got 2,000 or 3,000 on Twitter that were listening to what we had to say, and that's when we sort of went, well, there's a market here for it, so why don't we just go with it and see what we can do? And similar to yourself, we just took it and went for it, and it's so far so good. It's worked out quite well.
Yeah, brilliant. Congratulations on that as well, guys.
Yeah, appreciate
Have you got any questions for us, Michael? Any Eminem or hip hop related questions you'd like to know?
Oh, who's your favourite guest aside from me so far?
That's a good one. That was we had Lazarus on a little while ago. He's recently released a song with Mr. Porter, where he produced the track. So that was quite exciting to get someone that's sort of actually in the shady camp to a degree. But it's hard because it's funny. The time we started doing an Eminem podcast is around the time that he became like the least active. So he's on a bit of a long hiatus again at the moment. But obviously, if he releases a new album, and we'll try and get some more people on after that. But I think, I in my opinion, I'd say Lazarus was probably one of the most interesting guests that we had on.
Yeah. I think we also had Lone Star Music on.
Yes, that's
last year, and he helped produce the song "Normal" on Kamikaze. So it was good to get him on as well.
Discombobulated.
Oh, Discombobulated from Side B as well. So it was good to hear from him as well, because he's also an Eminem fan. So it's like it's mad for him, like to become a producer, and then years later, you end up doing a song with Eminem. So it was good to hear from his side of things as well. And I hope that there's some more Lone Star Music Eminem collaborations in the future as well. Ladies and gentlemen, if you do have Instagram, those from the UK, follow Eminem Tribute. And he's got a host of shows coming up as well. You might be even going to some of these festivals, so check him out, that's for sure. And Michael will check in in the near future as well, and see how your journey goes. And I hope it is successful, and I hope you end up travelling abroad as well to do some shows.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully I'll run into you guys if Scotland works out. Not
Glasgow town, give us a bell.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be great to meet you.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Thanks to my co-hosts as well, Blake and Ross. And it was Michael Mathers. Get him on Instagram.
Cheers, guys.